After years of working out of a 3,000 square foot commercial shop, I'm moving everything into a 400 square foot garage shop, and obviously I can't take it all with me. And this isn't just a move, it's a rethink of how I work, and let's talk about what got sold, what made the cut, and how I made those decisions. So moving out of a shop space is definitely never fun, but it's been kind of a nice challenge to think through all the tools that I feel are essential and get rid of anything that isn't. And a big part of this move was figuring out what I really needed to continue doing the work I do, while also making these videos a little more relatable. And I wanted to be able to squeeze as many of my tools into the garage space as possible, but I also didn't want to be so crammed in there that I couldn't actually work. So the first thing I do anytime I'm setting up a new space is to start in SketchUp. And I modeled up our garage and started trying to figure out where I wanted all my tools, and this was easier said than done. I went through a bunch of different layouts trying to figure out which tools could fit where, and I pretty quickly realized that a lot of my larger machines were going to have to go. The first big tool that I knew was going to have to get sold was my 4x8 CNC. And this was a tool that I loved using, but obviously it would have taken up about half of this garage when I factored in the space I'd need to leave around the machine. And I definitely plan to add a CNC back to the garage at some point, but it'll be a smaller format machine, probably around 2 foot by 4 foot. The next machine I sold was my drum sander, and I've had a love-hate relationship with this particular machine for years.
God dang it, dude. Still there's your art. Alright, I'm not dealing with it. Not dealing with it. Oh my god.
And I find drum sanders pretty finicky, and I don't really need them on most projects because there are usually other ways to accomplish the work a drum sander does. The next big machine that I knew was going to need to go was my large dust collector. This thing works great, I've had it for years, but it is extremely loud. When I moved into my larger shop space, I actually built this dust collector into a soundproof closet, which has helped a lot with the noise level, but this wasn't going to be an easy option in the garage. And I figured since the garage shares a wall with our house, and I also have neighbors who I don't want to bother, I needed to find a less noisy option. And that's where this other smaller dust collector comes into play. This machine is made by Harvey, and it has a few real advantages in this kind of smaller space. First of all, the footprint is pretty unique when it comes to dust collectors. Rather than being tall and narrow, it's a little wider but very short. And this is pretty cool because it'll allow me to add a work surface above the dust collector to kind of reclaim the space that the dust collector takes up on the floor. That way I can add other things above the dust collector, and I'm probably going to set up my sharpening area here. The other big advantage of this dust collector is that it's a lot quieter than my larger Clearview unit, and this should make a huge difference in the garage. One of the big things I struggled with when laying out this garage shop was where to put my planer and jointer. And I've had a planer and jointer in my shop since pretty much the very beginning because I like working with rough lumber whenever possible. Rough lumber is usually a lot cheaper and you have a lot more flexibility for where you buy your lumber. And even if you buy pre-milled lumber, a lot of times it's not perfectly flat and square, so having a jointer and planer at your disposal is extremely helpful. When I was trying to figure out where I could put a separate planer and jointer and still have enough infeed and outfeed to actually make them usable, I was kind of stumped, and that's when I started researching planer and jointer combination machines. And I didn't have any personal experience with these machines, I'd never even seen one in real life, but they seem to be a popular option in smaller shop spaces. And I know my friends Jason Bint from Bint's Woodworking and Jay Bates both have owned combination machines in the past. Now they've both since sold them, but they're also working out of larger spaces, and it seemed like these combination machines worked for them while they had them, so they'd probably work for me. When I was looking around at the different options in the world of combination machines, I first started looking at the Hammer A41, which seems to be one of the more popular combination machines. That said, the price point came in at over $9,000 shipped, which was way more than I wanted to spend. I also looked at the combination jointer planer available from SCM, but that was going to be just as expensive as the Hammer model. Once I started factoring in the price, I came down to really one option, and that was this Rikon unit, which checked a lot of boxes for me. It has a helical head, which leaves a much nicer surface finish on the material coming out of the planer or jointer. The machine has a 16-inch jointer and planer capacity, and that's even more jointing capacity than I had previously. It has a digital readout, so I can adjust the thickness of the pieces going through the planer very accurately, and the price was much more reasonable, coming in around the $6,000 price point rather than close to $9,000 for those other machines. I ended up getting this through Acme Tools, and it was delivered on a pallet, which made it a little difficult to get into the garage. And then I had to figure out how to get this thing off the pallet onto a mobile base, because being able to move your tools around is a very important thing in a smaller shop. Thankfully, I had installed that ceiling track system with my chain hoist in my last video, and I was able to use that to lift the jointer and set it onto this mobile base from Rockler. And I know you're not really supposed to lift these by the tables, but I couldn't really think of another way to get this done. And I haven't used this thing much at all at this point. I'm really still setting this shop up, but I'll definitely keep you guys posted on how I like the machine as I use it over the coming months and years. Let's take a second to talk about the sponsor of this week's video, Sunday. Sunday is a DIY lawn care brand that makes it super simple to have a lawn you're proud of. And if your lawn is looking as rough as mine right now coming out of winter, I'm talking bare patches all over the place, then Sunday is exactly what you need heading into spring. What I really like about Sunday is it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. When you sign up, they build you a custom lawn plan based on your specific yard, your grass type, your soil, your local climate, and then they ship everything straight to your door with free shipping. The products come in these nutrient pouches, which you attach right to your hose and then spray on your lawn. And that's it. It's super easy and exactly the kind of thing I need to get my lawn back on track this spring. Best of all, Sunday's products have no harsh chemicals, just powerful ingredients backed by nature. So if you want to give it a shot, head to getsunday.com/crafted or click the link below and use code CRAFT25 to get 25% off your first lawn plan. That's code CRAFT25 at getsunday.com/crafted. Again, the link's in the description. Thanks again to Sunday for sponsoring the video, and now let's get back to work. Some of the other tools that made the cut are probably unsurprising. Obviously, my table saw wasn't going anywhere. I use my table saw on pretty much every single project. I think it's the cornerstone of a woodworking shop, and this SawStop ICS meets pretty much all of my needs. That said, moving this saw was kind of a struggle, and I almost lost it off of the end of the liftgate. Thankfully, my wife happened to be homesick and saved the day, but let me tell you, moving these kinds of tools is no fun. I also kept my bandsaw, and I did have two bandsaws at the larger shop, and obviously didn't have room for that here in the garage, so I sold one of them and hung on to this Harvey bandsaw, which seems like it'll be a nice balance between size and power. That said, it was also a little tricky to move and just barely cleared the girder on my front porch at the shop, which was a little stressful. Another tool I debated on keeping versus building into the end of my table saw was my router table, but I use my router table a ton. It's great for cutting joinery, adding edge profiles, and doing template routing. And because of the way I laid out my jointer planer combo at the end of my table saw, it wasn't going to really work to have the router table built in there, so I figured I'd keep my separate router table, at least for the time being. I also decided to keep my drill press, and I think a drill press is an extremely useful tool to have, and I love this particular drill press. It's a direct drive model, so you don't have to change any belts. You can just spin the knob to change the RPM, so it makes it very easy to dial in the RPM to fit whatever type of drilling operation you're doing. And once those three tools were moved into place, things were really starting to take shape in the garage.
I actually have goosebumps because this is the first time I'm really seeing all of my major tools in this space. I got table saw, bandsaw, router table, drill press, dust collector. It's pretty exciting because this is really starting to come together.
I'm keeping most of my handheld power tools, and I think these smaller tools are great in smaller shop spaces. Tools like my track saws, sanders, routers, things like that, where you can bring the tool to the work and then store them away when you're done, work really well in this kind of smaller space. I'm also going to be trying to get a little bit more into using other more traditional hand tools like hand planes and chisels, because I think, again, these are really handy in a smaller space. They don't take up much room and allow you to do some work that other more dedicated machines would do in a larger shop. The main point here is that every single tool I brought with me had a decision made about whether to keep it or to sell it. And everything that's ending up in this shop are things that I think are pretty much essential to intermediate or advanced woodworking. One other tool that I really debated on whether I was going to keep or redesign or just get rid of was my miter saw station. And I've had a miter saw station in my shops pretty much from the very beginning. And one of my first woodworking YouTube projects, if you look back on my channel, was building a miter saw station. And I think these kind of setups are extremely handy because they make the miter saw much more usable. You have lots of in-feed and out-feed support, and also, in my case, a stop block system so you can make repeatable, accurate cuts. I'd recently built a newer miter saw station for my larger shop, but this was going to be way too big for this garage shop. Thankfully, when I built this miter saw station, I built it in a way that made it modular. And I could mix and match the cabinets to get different widths, but even with mixing and matching, it wasn't going to quite fit where I needed it in this garage. Thankfully, because I built the cabinets myself, I knew exactly how they were assembled, and if you've seen my cabinet basics video, you'll know that I do not use glue when I'm assembling my cabinets. And this made it really easy to adjust the width of the base cabinet and upper cabinet at the end of this run. I started by cutting the cabinet to width at the table saw, making multiple passes to cut each of the various stretchers and the cabinet top and bottom. Next, I removed the screws that attached the cabinet side and then knocked off the offcuts, which still had nails in them. After removing the nails, I could reassemble everything the same way that I'd originally assembled the cabinets, and it was ready to be installed. And this took all of 10 minutes per cabinet and meant that I could custom fit this miter saw station to the garage space really easily. Also, it's pretty amazing the kinds of careless errors you can make when you're working in a rush, and this was a prime example of that.
Well, you notice anything wrong with this picture? I don't even know how I did this, but I was so laser focused on installing this next cabinet, I didn't even realize that I was installing the wrong cabinet. So I just wasted probably 15-20 minutes getting this all perfectly level and flush and installed. And of course, this is one of the more annoying ones because this is the trash can slide out, so that drawer is not easily removable. And now I gotta take it apart.
I did also need to modify the work surfaces, cutting them down to fit, but that was thankfully pretty easy since I've got some of my tools set up here in the garage. Now I still need to cut down my drawer boxes and doors to fit, which I still haven't done, but I think this is going to be a great setup here in the garage. I definitely think these kinds of built-ins are well worth the space they take up, considering the amount of storage they add to this kind of space. Another category of tool that took a lot of pondering was which, if any, of my various workbenches and assembly tables were going to make the cut for the garage shop. Most of these had been built for my larger shop, and because of that, most of them were just way too big for the garage. The only workbench that made the cut was my Jumpstart workbench because it really checked all the boxes for a garage workbench. It's super sturdy, heavy so it doesn't move around, it has a ton of work holding options, and a bunch of built-in storage. For my outfeed table, I'm going to be using this beefy standing desk, which also means I'll still have a height adjustable work surface, which I'd really gotten used to with my lift-top assembly table. And I'm planning to build out a cabinet for the base to add more storage below, but otherwise this should work great as an outfeed table right out of the box. So there's obviously still a lot to do to get this set up as a fully operational shop. One of the big things is getting all of my wall storage dialed in, and I'm planning to do a big French cleat wall on the back wall of the garage, which I've started on, but definitely haven't finished yet. So go ahead and get subscribed and ring the notification bell if you don't want to miss the videos on these future shop storage projects. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy building.